Hi, I am Maxine O'Mahony, the Chief Executive of Breckland Council. We are always looking for new ways to reach you to keep you up to date with our work here at Team Breckland. I am really excited today to be sharing with you our first podcast, or what we are calling Breckcast. And in this episode, we are covering our NetZero conference in Sayham Tony, where we launched our new NetZero business support programme. Stephen from Team Breckland went along to cover the event. And first up, he's talking to Councillor Helen Crane, our Executive Member for Sustainability.
So we're with Councillor Helen Crane, the Breckland Executive Member for Sustainability. Helen, how important is it that Breckland Council works with local businesses towards net zero and supports local businesses with their net zero needs?
Well, it's a high priority for Breckland, as you can imagine. We started our own journey to net zero as a council in 2019 when we declared a climate emergency. And then we wanted to get our own house in order, or at least start getting it in order before we involved other businesses. But that's what we're now wanting to do, and provide the umbrella for them to come together, network together, and start their own roads to net zero.
I'm now speaking to Councillor Paul Clausen, our Executive Member for Economy and Growth, about the role of Breckland Council in supporting businesses with initiatives such as net zero. How important do you think it is, Paul, for Breckland Council to step in and support local businesses with such major challenges as moving towards net zero?
I think it's absolutely at the core of what we should be doing. It's what we've done for many a year. Because we started probably over a decade ago now with what was called the Rural Enterprise Valley Project. And that had education about how to save money, which ultimately was putting in better lighting, which is what we've been hearing about this morning, amongst other things, obviously.
And how well do you think the Net Zero programme links in with the Council's other activity in terms of business support?
Well, to give you one example, Will Brigham, who is one of our speakers here today, is actually on the Future Breckland board. And so his influence there is enormous, because we have to listen to the business community. We have to understand what they want, because otherwise we can't go about doing our work either, can we?
We're speaking to Andrew Holdsworth, who is the Assistant Director for Economy and Growth at Breckland Council. Andrew, the Net Zero programme that we're launching here today at this conference, how important is that to the local business community, and how do you see that programme developing?
We hope it's really important. So we are stepping into a space where district councils don't necessarily naturally play a role, but we're doing so because we think it's the right thing to do. The reason we went out and found a bit of money to start this programme was because we got some very strong feedback from our businesses, from our business community, that basically they wanted to make investments, they wanted to change the way that they worked, but there's sometimes a difficulty in understanding what the right change to make was, and what they should be focusing on first. And what we're hoping to do today really is to set out a programme that helps and enable businesses on that journey. So part of what we're doing is trying to create networks. So we've heard today there's some really innovative businesses on the patch who've already made some amazing changes themselves, and they want to help others to help themselves. That'll be a key part of what we want to grow over the next year. We've also heard that there's a bit of a confusion about what's the right data set to use, what's the right support to use. So what our programme will do is invest in capacity on the ground, so officers who can go out and work with businesses and speak to businesses, but also technical advisors. So we've partnered with a company called Oppergy, who can work individually with businesses and help them really get under the skin of what decarbonisation means for them. We're kicking off a year of activity through this. But my hope is that what this year will do is prove to us how we can grow this, how we can make it more part of our BAU offer, and more part of just the way the business community in Breckland works together.
So speaking to Will Bridgman of Warren Services, one of the presenters at today's Net Zero conference, and talking about the importance of net zero, the relationship between Breckland Council and businesses and helping them build capacity around net zero. Well, how important is it that councils take this role, and how do you think Breckland has been performing so far in terms of supporting businesses with their net zero needs?
Yeah, I think it's very important. The council needs to be seen as a leader. How can it help other businesses transform if it's not got its own house in order? So, I really appreciate their 2035 strategy. how the council needs to put their house in order, so then it can help other businesses. Because council has got access to other resources that potentially businesses haven't, and it should be seen as a, not a leader might be the wrong word. We don't want to be told what to do by the council, but we want to be seeing them as like Bowles and Walker and Warren Services. We've tried to get ahead of the game. The council need to be in that position, and then it's about whether the council can access potentially government funding to help us do things as a community as Breckland, because individual businesses can only do so much. It's about us all learning and working together to make a real impact.
And that is definitely something that Breckland tries to pride itself on, the fact that we do with rather than do to, that we are able to work with businesses, communities, etc., rather than thinking that we know the best solution to the problem and handing that down. What is Breckland Council like to work with as a partner?
Yeah, and it's changed in the last few years exactly that way, where they want to be a partner rather than telling us what to do. I feel it's quite a collaborative approach. I feel I've seen a few things happen which is more akin to what happens in the States. I went over to the States to look at potentially doing some stuff over there where what their equivalent to the council would be is very much right. Let's get the bank involved. Let's get the property people involved. Let's get the university involved. And they can't do all of those things themselves, but they can be that broker. So if we want to be bringing businesses in from outside or encouraging businesses to expand in our area rather than other areas, by that council playing that brokerage role, being able to bring some funding in, being able to bring the universities in, being able to bring the landowners in, I do think that makes it makes a big difference. It's a more coherent approach.
Now speaking to Michael Barwood of Bowles and Walker, one of the conference speakers today. Michael, how important is it that Breckland supports businesses on their net zero journey?
I'd say it's very vital that Breckland steps in to help people. It's more often than not that most businesses, they have an understanding of environmental issues, sustainability, but they don't know where to start. So Breckland stepping in and saying, well, actually, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We can support you with this project is essential to getting people on the path to net zero.
And you've seen the presentation today from Opporgy, from our partner. What do you think of the programme that they're outlining?
It sounds really good. I mean, especially making it a free programme, that'll encourage people to get on board a lot easier than saying, oh, we'd have to charge you X amount for our consultation for this. It's going to be a bit tricky. Getting a lot of data together is always not as easy because you're asking people a lot of their time. But I think anyone that wants to get onto this journey to net zero will be encouraged to give that data over as as much as possible.
Now speaking to Chris Blinko, the General Manager for Opporgy Net Zero, our partner in this project. Chris, what can businesses expect to benefit from in this net zero programme?
So broadly, I think businesses will benefit by learning a bit more about net zero, what it means, what it's all about, how they as a business can understand their impact on the environment, their carbon footprint, but also how they might want to look forward strategically at reducing carbon emissions going forward. What we'll be doing is delivering a series of workshops for the 65 businesses that enroll on the programme, and that's going to teach them everything from understanding what net zero is and some of the terminology out there and demystifying all of that. We'll be exploring how you understand your carbon emissions. We hear these terms Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3 carbon emissions. Again, we'll be going into the detail of that. We'll be talking about renewable energy technologies, what might be most suitable for your business, sustainable business practices. Is there anything that can be done around behaviour change within the business? Right through to travel behaviours, and there's a lot of carbon emissions associated with travel, whether that's people commuting to and from work or how we move goods around. And also there'll be the question of adapting to climate change. It's something that we're all seeing every day now as warmer summers, stormier winters perhaps, and all of that. And flooding is obviously an increasing issue potentially as well. So we'll be exploring that side of things and then looking to wrap it all up into a decarbonisation plan for businesses going forward.
Speaking to Jason Cole, Executive Director for Working Smarter 2035, Breckland's sustainability corporate theme. How important is the role of local council in helping businesses with their net zero plans?
It's really critical, actually, and we're doing all we can, and we recognise our part as a leader, but essentially as an enabler and a convener to bring all of our businesses together, bring our knowledge, external knowledge together so that we can collaborate and lead on any education, which will then drive behaviour change. The conference so far has been brilliant. The energy and enthusiasm from the businesses we've heard from is really asking some difficult and curious questions, which is sharing that learning across the rooms. But it just highlights the benefit of a local authority being close to its community, close to its businesses, and being able to share that learning.
Now we're speaking to Cassie and Abby from the Business and Growth team. In terms of today's conference, how do you think it's gone, and what next steps can the businesses that have signed up to the Net Zero programme look forward to?
I think the conference has gone really well today. We've had a variety of businesses from across the district, from different sectors, really engaged in the programme, and with opportunity to look at what existing businesses have already delivered in their own opportunities. And I think that's really going to help showcase those studies and develop it further.
And Abby, what about the next steps?
The next steps that businesses can expect are to, if they sign up to the programme, they will be offered the chance to learn about some dedicated workshops provided by Opporgy, and then be offered the chance to have a decarbonisation plan alongside Opporgy for their business.
That was Breckland's Stephen McCarthy at our recent Net Zero conference. If you would like to find out more about how Breckland Council can support your business, follow the link provided. I've been Maxine O'Mahony, Chief Exec of Breckland Council. Thank you for joining us on our first ever Breckcast. Stay tuned for future episodes here and across our social media channels. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share.